What is going on, guys? Matt Downs with Daily Grind Fantasy Sports to help give you the edge for this MMA 15 fight slate. Cannot wait to break it down. If you guys are brand new to this channel, we provide both free and paid content for all daily fantasy sports across all sports. If you could please show your support by hitting that subscribe button, notification bell, and of course smashing that like button for all of our future MMA content. If you would like to know more about becoming a better DFS player and taking down that big GPP, head over to www.patreon.com/dgfantasy for more information. On Patreon, we give advanced cheat sheets for all DFS sports on DraftKings. These cheat sheets include updated projections, ownership, and our overall favorite plays from slate to slate. We take it a step further by teaching you how to play fantasy sports like a shark, by showing you where the best leverage spots are to put you in the best spots to take down tourneys. Also included is our private Discord chat where you get to talk over the slate with everyone, including our coaches, to help build your lineups. And now let's go ahead and dive right into this MMA now 14 fight slate. Now with Kevin, as you guys know, Kevin's always the man covering these things. I know nothing really about MMA, but I have learned a lot. The best I got here is ownerships for you guys. Kevin's going to take it away. Kevin, how did we do last weekend?
So last weekend, Matt, was UFC. Actually, it wasn't last weekend. It was 2 weeks ago, but it was UFC 260.
That's right. 2 weeks ago. My bad.
Yeah, no, you're good. So yeah, I know we're used to running them every week. But last event was UFC 260. Let me bring my mic just closer real quick.
There you go.
It was UFC 260. Pretty good night for us. We had a good amount of Patreon success, and I think our calls were pretty on point. First fight, I remember saying I learned my lesson from the Bruno Silva fight the week previously. Bruno Silva was like 0-3 in the UFC, and I was like, I'm fading him, and he got a first-round knockout, made the optimal or something like that, and it was like, okay, I'm not going to avoid Barrial like that. I said Barrial was live. Barrial scored off the charts, I'm assuming, just by looking at his stat line. What did he score?
Barrial scored 132. Yeah, that was the highest on the slate. It's literally so back-to-back slates. The first fight in the slate breaks it like completely wide open.
Two 0-3 guys too, I believe. Yeah. I think it was 0-3 in the UFC before that, something like that. And then Jung and Morales was next. I said it was live, but it didn't make my love list, and I don't think it scored too well. Michael and Macdessey was a little lackluster, but that's okay. We did consider that as a possibility. I was worried about Abu Bakr at his price for tourneys, and he didn't score too hot, so I think that was not too bad of a situation for us there. What did make my love list was Blanchfield and Charant. I said Blanchfield and Charant was necessary. We talked about that pricing, Matt. One was 7,100, one was 8,100, making the combination 15,200, which is, basically $1,000 less than the usual combination price. So exposure to that fight was obviously huge for us. We took a lot of Blanchfield. Blanchfield definitely was the best pick of the slate in terms of just, he was a -3, -400 favorite by lock at 8,100.
Yeah.
He got the first round finish with a beautiful Von Flue choke in the first 2 minutes. Actually, it sucks. I mean, I had a lot of them, and so did everyone else. So it's not like it was massive leverage anyway.
Yeah.
He was 11 seconds away from getting that new quick finish bonus. He finished in 1:11.
Right.
So it would have been crazy if he finished 11 seconds earlier than that. But he scored an amazing first price, and he was my favorite pick of the slate. So that was good one for night. Malarkey versus Worthy made my love list, and Malarkey smoked the optimal as he got a 46-second knockout as the underdog. I said I liked Robertson versus Maverick a lot, and it was actually a really entertaining fight. I like that one. It was a fun one to watch too. Miranda scored pretty damn well. 130 total strikes, 76 strikes, 3 takedowns. What did Miranda Maverick score?
98.8, so almost broke that 100 mark. Yeah, almost.
Not bad. I said Sugar Sean was a great pick, and he scored well. He's a talented idiot, man. He's friggin' so frustrating. Did you watch that fight?
I did not. I saw the highlights though.
So he had that ridiculous, I'm pissed that it worked out for him. So I like Sean. I'm so pissed because he had the knockout so early in the fight.
Yeah.
Knocked him on his butt. Tried to do a walk-off knockout.
Yeah, I remember.
Nope. Yeah, and it was he was like, nope, you're not done yet, and it ended up going 2 more rounds, and then he tried it again. The ref was like, nope, you're not done yet, and this time the ref probably should have made it done because I think, put him 6 feet in the ground.
Yeah,
it was that next shot he hit him with. My goodness, that thing echoed. I was like, oh no, and then he did a fadeaway 3 too.
Yeah.
Like a jumper. It was
Now,
cool.
surprisingly, he did not. Well, it's funny. He made the top 6 scorers, but did not make the optimal because of
Oh yeah,
pricing.
no,
but
I didn't think he did.
But anyway, I mean, he was close to it. He would have been the next man up.
Yeah. It was a third round. It's difference between a third round finish and a first round finish. That's what I
Yep.
say. He's a talented idiot, man. He blew it for a lot of people. And he was $9,200, right? Something
He
like that.
was 92. Yep.
Yeah. So I mean, that's the difference maker right there. What did he score?
He
100?
scored no, he actually did not. It was 72.93. So
72.
the next guy, the guy that made the optimal was Morales, and he scored 71, and it was just because of pricing. He was $8,700, and O'Malley, like we just talked about, 92. So it was just
He made a finish.
Yeah, he did. Yep. So in terms of scoring,
I thought he was doing. I know he's picking a lot
it.
of counter shots, but he got 2 knockdowns, didn't he?
I'm seeing 70. Do you know what? I completely lied to you. Hold on. You're right. Because I was reading his projection. Our projections were a little conservative. 100.55 is what he scored. Sorry.
Okay.
Yeah.
Gotcha. Okay. I was just thinking to myself. I'm doing the math in my head. I'm like, dude, did he literally like knock him down then stare for? I was like, what fight did I watch?
The reason I read it wrong, by the way, this is not a rookie mistake. Fantasy Cruncher did a major update. This is an FYI for you, Kevin. A major update for the platform in general, and they added like 15 more columns. So where the actual score normally was his projection. So I had to scroll to the right a lot more just to see his actual. So that's my bad.
No, 100%. I was just genuinely confused. I was like, what fight was I friggin' watching where he got? Makes no sense.
Yeah.
But okay, cool. I'm glad I'm not going crazy. So yeah, that was interesting. I talked about my fear of Tyron Woodley's talent level now and the confidence I had in Luque's. I was wrong about how that fight would go, though. I really expected Woodley, to go for takedowns, and he kind of did early, but he went out on a shield. Woodley, I give him a lot of credit. I think he's probably done in the UFC. Dana White alluded to that, but he went out on a shield. He went down swinging, and if that's the last fight we ever see a Tyron Woodley, hats off to him. That was a nice way to go out, swinging for the fences, and like to see that. But I know Vicente Luque scored pretty good with that first round finish because of it. Did he make optimal? 9K, I'm assuming.
Luque at 9.1 did not make the optimal. 106.9. The optimal had used $49,800. Not a single person over $8,800, Kevin, made the optimal just because it was that type of build. Wow. And we talk about this all the time.
How many points did he score?
He scored 106.89. Yep. It was just the way the lineup construction worked. So we had Francis, the main event, $8,400, as you know, 110. And Barriel, that's his name? Yeah. The first one, 132, and again at $8,200, that would be massive in terms of lineup construction. And then Malarkey at $7,600, 127 points. So that's why it was so hard to get those 9K guys plus, because of those major upsets, not major, but those awkward prices because they scored so high. All about lineup construction.
Just broke my brain, bro. Yep. Just sitting there like contemplating.
It's like a puzzle. It's like a puzzle. I mean, if I went to the next highest owned line here, actually, let me crunch 2 lineups here. The next highest had Luque at $9,100, $49,900. So that lineup construction looked a little bit different. So yeah, it's all about lineup construction.
I mean, I'm obviously still Luque was a great.
Oh
pick.
Yeah, no, fantastic. Yeah, I'm sure nobody even had the optimal. it was a weird lineup. Nobody above 9K. So.
My brain, bro. What are you doing, man? Yeah. I'm just like on a 10-fight slate, a guy who's 9,100. His price is not that pricey. He scored 106 and didn't make the optimal.
You say not that pricey, but again, some of these lower price guys, they scored phenomenal on that 10-fight slate. So.
Wait till you hear this card, then, man. Yeah. You want to talk about pricing? My goodness, that's why I say you'll see why I'm saying he's not too pricey. At 9,100.
Yeah.
But yeah, let's move on to that fight you just alluded to. Ngannou obviously did great. Obviously, I love that pick. I said he was on the love list. I'll absolutely, my biggest woe that night is I put all my faith in Stipe at 7,800. Yeah. It was too enticing. It was just everything fell so well into place with him in my lineup. So I just went so heavy on Stipe, and that burned me. But I did say Ngannou was obviously this material. That's just how I made my lineups personally. But obviously in the breakdown we talked about Ngannou. So that I'm surprised he scored that well. How many points?
110.
That's crazy. I'm actually really surprised. It didn't look like that kind of affair to me. I mean, I was thinking it was like going to be more like a 90 something, but interesting. But yeah, so I will say, Matt,
we did say this. Whoever was going to win from that fight was going to be in the optimal just because of the pricing. $7,800 and $8,400 for a main event. Are you kidding me? That's so
100%.
cheap. So
it's funny for this next one too, Matt. It's like I will say, that was a smaller slate, and even though it was a smaller slate, like you said, that because there were so many weird winners in terms of like no one over 9K, and there was 3 9K options there, so a lot of people got burned. I will say in DFS and MMA, Matt, as you know, a lot of times if you do win a slate, especially if it's a smaller tournament or if it is a smaller MMA slate, you'll tie. You know what I mean? It does happen. Ties are not uncommon. Still won a crap ton of money. Like I said, when we had that person a little bit ago win for 45 grand off that slate.
I think it was are you talking about the $98,000 winner?
Yeah, I think he split it. What his biggest contest, he split 2 or 3 ways.
Oh, okay.
But you can still make a lot of money split. You know what I mean? I'm just saying you can make a lot of money.
45,000, 98,000, whatever. Not a big difference.
Oh yeah, that too. 98. I forgot about 98 too. Yeah. I was just speaking MMA, but what was that? Golf?
It was golf. Yep.
Crazy.
And it was funny. He for the golf one, he was. It was almost like a bad result on his part. It was literally down to the very last hole, and his guy secured the win, and the guy that was below him ended up passing him. It was like the craziest, like it was like a 20-something foot putt he was not supposed to hit, and he got it for a birdie and then passed him, and he ended up losing by like 0.15 points, and it was just like you can't complain since you got second, but what could have been, it was just a heartbreaker.
Yeah, that's insane. That's absolutely insane. That's crazy. But yeah, I'll tell you right now. So the reason we're talking about this is this fight night slate. I will tell you, Matt, this is going to be one of the hardest ones, if not the hardest of the year. It's still early in the year, but it's going to be probably the hardest one I can think of to get it right.
To break down for your perspective too.
Yes, but I think this is the biggest leverage one we've seen in a while.
Awesome.
To put yourself first. To put yourself on top of the heap with no ties.
I can tell you right now with the ownership, it looks exactly like what you just said.
I'm telling you, it's all over the place. Amount of fights, it's the pricing, and it's the matchups. It's so awkward, Matt. The slate is so friggin' awkward that it's good. It creates, if you're a high risk, high reward guy, this is one of the higher reward potential MMA ones. Like if you take down a 100K contest, there's a legitimate chance you could win 100K.
Well, I just cashed out on CSGO, so guess who's playing MMA tomorrow?
Love it. Absolutely love it.
Let's go.
You crushing CSGO?
Yeah, oh, obviously. Yeah, of course. And MLB, actually, I don't want to toot my own horn, but MLB, I mean, I've lost like 2 slates to start the season, and there's been about 8. So, and it's not even been bad losses. It's been like I made half my money back. It's anyway, I won't go on a tangent, but I've been looking pretty good on DraftKings right now. So
I love it. I love it. Keep that money coming in, and I hope we can win tomorrow. And I hope we can win all our Patreons and all our viewers some money too. So let's get right into it then. And also, as I talked to you earlier, Matt, I said there's some weird hours on this card, so be obviously aware of that. I think the main card starts at 11:30.
11:30. Good note. Yep.
So definitely pay attention to that. Don't want to be locked out of your lineups with when they're not finished. But moving on. Starting the slate off, we have Impa Kasanganay versus Sasha Politnikov. This is a huge slate, as we mentioned, and we are going to have to put our foot down somewhere, and I think this is an easy place to do so. Matt, I told you the pricing on this slate would be unreal. Impa, 9.5K.
Is that the highest? No, second highest. Okay.
No, that's the crazy thing. No, he's not at 9.5K. So Impa's a talented fighter, undefeated before getting highlight reeled by Buckley last October. Do you remember that, Matt?
Yes.
Spinning.
Yep. That's still like popping up on my Twitter from a year ago.
It might be the go down as like, I mean, if it was a bigger, higher octane fight or like bigger draw, it probably would have been best knockout of all time. But because it was kind of like an undercard fight, but it was crazy. It was crazy. But I'm gonna give him a hard pass on that. I'm gonna give him a pass on that because it does happen. He's a fighter. It's a fight, and he's still talented. But I am gonna give a hard pass on him as the price on the slate at 9,500, Matt. He is a miserable finisher. I think he's got 2 finishes out of his 8 wins as a professional. And you got to think there's going to be a crap ton of finishes on the slate. So you're going to need, like we just talked about, Matt, we just had a guy who is $9,100 with a first round finish, not make the optimal on a 10-fight slate. Let that sink. That is incredible. That's the Vicente Luque one that you just broke my brain with.
Yeah.
So Impa needs to do everything right at 9,500 on a 15-fight slate to make the optimal. I'm not seeing it.
I already have my hot take for this slate. I can't wait to talk about the main card. Here we go.
On the main card?
Yeah.
Okay. So yeah, I think you gotta avoid him for that. Sasha is probably avoidable too as a plus 235 underdog, but if he wins, he'll probably make the optimal. So make him yellow and Impa red. We're gonna
And Impa red. Okay, got it. Yellow, red, and the ownership tends to agree with you. They're both actually. Let me just make sure I'm saying this right. So I give you guys a benchmark percentage for the first guy for first time watchers here. I give the top 6% ownership guys. Those are usually your cash viable guys in terms of ownership. Those are the guys you want for cash, and you probably want to fade for bigger GPPs. Usually, looking at the benchmark percentages here, going through the top 6 here, we have Rodriguez at 25.7% ownership. So the ownership is very spread across the board. Like I mentioned earlier, Kevin, anything below about 25.7% ownership, we're going to deem GPP worthy. And guess what? Both those guys are below that benchmark. Let me resort. 15. Sasha, 32.3% ownership. And, I'm sorry, he is cash viable. Sorry. Sasha, 32.3% ownership, and Impa, 22.3% ownership.
That is crazy high ownership for Sasha. Crazy high. For a plus 235. I don't hate it. It makes more sense to me. You want to take him, like I said, he's yellow for a reason. Maybe people are still thinking.
So that's where people are paying down, and guess where they're going to be paying up. Hence my hot take here.
Vittori.
Yep.
Sure.
So get ready for it.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's interesting to me. I think I'm just kind of like that's another one I need to process. It's okay. I'm
Sharp fade.
For a reason, but yeah, I mean, if you fade Sasha and he's actually owning 33%, I mean, he's still a very, very heavy underdog, and
yeah, they're giving him a 30% chance to win. So
yeah, crazy. Moving on, we have Jung Daun versus William Knight. This fight's a banger, Matt, and I swear if Knight gets pulled off this card again, I'm going to lose my freaking mind. Do you remember?
I do remember that.
Yeah, I mean, it's crazy. I would love this dude. I want to watch him fight some more. I mean, he's got that energy, and it's just we have yet to see more of him. And he was supposed to fight Menafield, got called off. Supposed to fight Menafield again, got called off. We did see Menafield fight Charant last fight, so at least we got some of him. Hopefully, we get some Knight. Don't need to get cute here, Matt. William Knight is a monster. Big power, great price tag. Jung can be thrown in that category as well. He's a monster, big power. Both guys hit like trucks, and this fight is a huge fight of the night potential. I mean, it's 8.4K versus 7.8K, minus 245 finish chance. Again, don't need to get cute here. It's pretty cut and dry. That's a love list for sure. I mean, like I said, there's going to be a bunch of first-round finishes on this card. There's going to be. You want to be on the winning side of them. On fights like on fight nights like this, it's like you really need high finish chances. When there's 15 fights, you really need high finish chances. Where like, smaller slates, yeah, some decisions will make it in. You know what I mean? Not saying a decision won't make it in here, but you have to put on some volume, some serious volume.
I will interject here. So this slate in general, what I would do from you limiting your player pool, what I would do for a strategy is just ignore all the salaries at this point and just say who is going to score the highest, period. Given 15 fights or 14 fights now, you're going to want the highest price. You're going to want the highest potential guys just on the slate. It's like, as stupid as that sounds, you didn't want that on a 10-game slate or a 10-fight slate rather, just because there are so many different lineup combinations, which we've already talked about so many times so far. You're going to want to save salary. You're going to leave a bunch on the table, and you're just going to take the highest potential scoring guys on the slate, period. Don't pay attention to price tags. Like, if there's 5 upsets on this card, like a $9,600 Vittori could easily make it into the optimal, and he probably should. Same thing, being said, that I'm sure we have a lot of other examples here on this card, Kevin, but just given the amount of fights, take the highest projected guys, period. And you're saying that this fight does definitely have that potential.
Yep. 100%.
All right.
So I love this. I'm definitely taking some of that fight. I'm trying to think. I made a couple lineups. I can't remember who I had more side of, but yeah, both sides are great. Moving on, we have Saldana versus Griffin. Plus 140 finish chance. Like, yeah, okay. I don't agree with that at all. I think this fight is super green, both sides for sure. Only reason it isn't a lock for Loveless is the fact I'm not certain how this fight will look in a decision. Griffin can be a low decision scorer, and we haven't seen a lot of Saldana. But that being said, the pricing is great here, Matt, and I feel like it's going to carry low ownership. I'm going to take a guess here and say it's going to carry low ownership. just because of the names and the finish chance. But Saldana has 14 wins all by finish, 7 KOs, 7 subs, so very well rounded. Scary to see a fighter with that resume. Griffin makes a great dance partner. We've seen Jordan Griffin. He has an amazing guillotine, really good, grappler. He just, it's one of those guys you don't want him near your neck. When he gets there, he'll choke you, and he puts a lot of pressure that way. So I think this fight has big potential, Matt. I think it's going to fly under the radar. What are we looking at for ownership?
17% for Saldana, and then Griffin 16.2. So yes, very low ownership all the way around. And it looks like you're the only guy that believes in this fight, according to ownership.
I 100% see potential here. I think you target this fight, Matt.
All right.
I don't think that's green. It's on my love list, but it's definitely green. You make a lot of lineups and you take some sides of this,
especially for the ownership now. Given that,
yeah, I think this is a good slate too to make a crap ton of lineups on. This is one where, like, it's such a big slate. Make a ton of lineups, differentiate yourself, take some shots, and like I said, if you come out on top, like, you might be very separating yourself from the field if you can just limit your player pool and just get the fights right.
Exactly.
So, moving on, we have Hunter Azure versus Jack Shore. Do I like Jack in this fight, Matt? I sure do. So anyway, so undefeated fighter with a 92% finish rate. I love this kid. It's going to be fun to watch. He's well-rounded, has won both his UFC fights by rear naked choke, and I think Hunter is going to be a good test for him. Now, Hunter is a tough dude to beat, but is a super low-octane guy. I think he could win with his wrestling, but even at 7.5K, I have my doubts about his score unless he puts on a takedown clinic. So I think you can mark him yellow, especially seeing as Jack Shore is going to make my love list, and you may want some cross exposure. But what's the ownership here, Matt?
Jack Shore surely has some high ownership, Kevin. 33.4% ownership. He's actually the third highest on the card. So Azure, sorry. I keep getting the Shore in there. I keep putting the Shores in there.
Azure, and I just say Azure. So
okay, so we're both wrong. Okay, so I'm just more of an idiot. All right, 12.8% ownership. So that's very low.
If you want to hedge your bets and target a lot of this fight, I don't hate it. I do like Jack a lot more.
They're giving Azure a 40% chance to win this thing, so that's not out of the realm of possibility.
No, I'm more worried. It's not that I don't think he can win. I mean, Jack Shore's never been beaten, but I am a little bit nervous about how he will score even if he wins. It's a big slate. Winning at 7,500 doesn't mean you're going to make the optimal just because you won as an underdog. So, but yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that goes. I do like that fight. Moving on.
I'm sorry, do you want me to green light both of
them? Green light, Jack Shore, he's definitely love list. Hunter, put yellow.
Okay.
Just because I'm not sure how he's going to score. Like I said, he's got good wrestling. Could put on a clinic. But moving on, we have Jorgen de Castro versus Donahue. This is interesting, Matt. This one's a friggin' headache. Jorgen de Castro, don't know. Had an awesome fight against Justin Tafa, which impressed me. But then he had some pretty miserable losses to Greg Hardy and Carlos Felipe. Granted, both those guys are having some real success now, but 9,400 on a slate this big, I really don't know what to do with him, Matt. There's a minus 350 finish chance here. I don't know. If he gets a first-round knockout, he's going to make the optimal. Still at 9,400, he has to.
Yeah.
Even on a slate this big.
Right.
If he pieces him up for the entire first round and gets a knockout late in the first round, he makes the optimal. Anything else, I don't think he makes the optimal. Any other result. If he gets a second round knockout, third round knockout, decision, I don't think he makes the optimal.
Right.
So you're really banking on a first round knockout and even more, hopefully, a first minute knockout. I hate this fight. I don't know.
So I'll give you some ownership here. Castro, 25.6% ownership. So the seventh highest on the card, which he's out of that realm of cash. And I think because of that, it looks like people don't know what to do with him in terms of GPP.
Friggin' same, bro. Yeah. I hate this fight.
Donahue, though, 5.4% ownership, which is actually the lowest on the card for what it's worth, Kevin. So you see leverage potential there?
I do. It's heavyweights. I mean, if you're ever going to take someone at 5%, make it a heavyweight. Because
I agree with that.
Make it a heavyweight against someone like Jorgen de Castro. Not that Donahue's been any bit impressive in his either of his UFC fights, but I don't know. I think it could be a knockout win for Donahue. I think could happen. I think it should be a knockout win for Jorgen, but I don't know, Matt.
Let me ask you this: do you think Castro will or potentially could be one of the highest scoring overall fighters on the slate?
Yes,
Okay.
because of a first round knockout.
Right.
But again, you are banking on that. It's not like he could be, and then if he doesn't, like he's not.
Oh, for
like,
sure.
It's not like know
But
what I mean. Like I don't think there's any realm of possibility where he makes the optimal. Where like if you look at a couple other people, like Jack Shore, perfect example, somebody we talked about, obviously way cheaper. If he doesn't get the first round finish, I think he could still put a pace on that person to
right.
on Hunter to make the optimal. Same with we're talking about. William, not people who have like a little bit higher pace, like Jordan Castro. He has his leg kicks. He does mix it up. I like some of this, but he's pretty friggin' tentative, man. And after that first round, he usually slows down a crap ton.
Right. But now here's my point. So given his ownership, he's not extremely chalky. You almost have to include him in your GPP pool because there's some leverage potential there just because of the ownership.
I don't disagree.
Yeah.
I don't disagree.
So you almost
Especially
have to.
He's actually the third highest pay up option on the slate, which is crazy.
Yeah.
Which is not, it's crazy that Jorgen De Castro is that high, but it's actually more crazy that at 9,400 he's the third highest. So might be a good pivot off of like Impa Kasanganay.
Exactly. That's my point.
I don't hate it. Yeah.
Yeah. So I think for that reason, I'm going to be including him in my player pool. So I think if you disagree with me, then you're trash. But if you agree, I think you have to include him in your player pool, thus making him a green light. If you're gonna make Donahue a green light.
So if I disagree, I'm trash. If I agree, we're friends.
Right. Yes.
Okay, I disagree.
All right. Moving on.
No, I like it. I would put them both like yellow or something.
Okay.
Or maybe green, but it's definitely not Loveless.
You don't love him, but you almost were forced to make him green.
Yep, yeah. Exactly. It's one of those ones. Moving on, we got John Macdessey versus Ignacio. Macdessey is a vet, always beating lower level guys and lost to everyone else. His upside is pretty low, even though he's 7,300. But I will give him a yellow because he's a vet, and Ignacio is making his UFC debut. Ignacio, I'll give a yellow too because he has power, but that's a lot to pay for him. He could be a sneaky pick. He's a plus 110 finish chance. I think he could be a sneaky pick. I think he's going to carry pretty low ownership.
He is.
I'm assuming.
Yep.
What's he looking like?
23.8. So he's like in that mid range.
Yeah, that could be a sneaky one. Like, wow, like he comes out, gets a first round knockout, and you're like, wow, well, I guess he's making the optimal. I don't hate it. Another kind of awkward fight, 2 back-to-back awkward fights. Double yellow this one too. I kind of like want to double yellow both of those fights a little bit. This one has much more reasonable pricing. It just doesn't have as high of a finish chance, and I really don't know what to expect. Like I said, John Macdessey's he's a vet, and this guy's, Ignacio is a little more up and coming, but I don't know. What's Macdessey's ownership?
Macdessey is at 10.4, which is very low. I think it's literally the second low. Yeah, it's the second lowest on the card. So
I consider him throwing in the player pool. I mean, like a Loveless, but there's actually a pretty good amount of punts coming up, so I don't think you need to.
All right, so we're gonna yellow light these guys.
Yeah, let's move on from that one. There's not a lot to talk about there. Moving on, we got Norma Dumont and Aaron Blanchfield. Sorry, taking off my socks, getting hot here. This one's interesting, Matt. I wanted to red light Norma so friggin' bad at that price. I can't. She still deserves a yellow for a couple reasons. She's 1-1 in the UFC with a knockout loss and a decision win, which is like just adding to the why I want to fade her. You've been knocked out and you didn't finish people. Okay, cool. But she does carry a high striking volume, mixes in takedowns as well. So she feasibly could clear her price at 9,300 with a decision. She could do it.
Okay.
Which may have to be the case for her because this is part of the reason I wanted to red light her. Plus 185 finish chance on a card this big. That being said, I do think Blanchfield is a risky but smart punt play, and she's going to make my love list. I think she has a real fighter's chance, Matt. It's 6,900.
33% chance.
33% chance. And I think this is a coin flip. I think it's a dead on 50-50 coin flip. Yep, she's 6-1 against much better competition than Norma's faced through her time. She was in Invicta, came through the only thing is Norma has the UFC experience now, which is interesting. But like again, Invicta is basically the women's UFC, right? Like they have, that's where so many Miranda Maverick, this is where all these girls are coming from. So it's interesting, and I think this is going to be one of those fights where I think it's a near coin flip with ridiculously different pricing. So I'm probably going to throw some Aaron Blanchfield in and just hope and pray. What's her ownership? Looks good.
13.3% ownership, as you know, is very low. And Dumont at 24.9% ownership. So on that borderline of cash/GPP.
Yeah, Dumont's definitely on the closer to like, might be one where you fade and just pray.
Right.
Fade and pray on
We call that a smart fade. Sharp fade.
Yeah, sharp fade. So yeah, moving on, we got Scott Holtzman. I'm actually excited for that fight, though. I think Blanchfield has a chance. I could be way off on that, but I'm very curious to see how it goes. But moving on, Scott Holtzman versus Matisse Gamrot.
Gamrot.
Rather. Yeah, Gamrot is son of a bitch, man. He's the one who was 17-0, and came in and got and lost his probably a month or two ago. But he came in undefeated to the UFC, 17-0. That's a lot of fights, man. That's a lot of fights to go undefeated in a professional career and not make it to the UFC. So to make it to the UFC after 17-0, you think he's going to do pretty well. Loses his first fight. It was a split decision loss, but you know, that is still scary when you're paying $9,200 for the guy.
Sure.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't know. It's interesting. It's Holtzman's tough, man. Holtzman's tough, and that's where I'm like, I don't know at 7K. I think this fight's live in a weird way. I think it's green for both guys. I'll tell you what. Holtzman's tough, like I said. He's beaten some big names. He's beaten Jim Miller, Alan Patrick, and he really only loses to super talented guys. So I do think Holtzman has that potential. Gamrot still could be a little bit like in that bright lights awe of the UFC. I mean, you know, he came in undefeated, lost his first fight. You never know how he's going to come out. That stuff is a factor. But I will say, Gamrot did have 5 takedowns in his first fight and did look like the better fighter. I think he got robbed a bit. So I think he should have won his first UFC fight. So I think he's green a little more hesitantly. 9,200. That's a scary pick, man. I'm hoping you're telling me he's low ownership because that'll give me the biggest amount of leverage for him because you're hoping for a wrestling clinic. You're hoping for a wrestling clinic and he just puts it on him. And you're almost hoping he's one of those people you want to get a decision. Right. Put a ridiculous pace on him. Holtzman, on the other hand, at 7K, I think is live too. Like I say, he's beating some big names. Gamrot has shown some chinks in the armor in his first fight. So what are you thinking?
Sounds like a lot of question marks from your end, and it looks like the public is also agreeing with that, Kevin. Gamrot, 25.6% ownership, so literally right below that line of cash/GPP. So it looks like people are hesitant to touch him, and when they get to that cash range. But Holtzman also 18.9%, which is actually pretty high for that price tag. So again, agreeing with you, like they didn't like what they saw from Gamrot in that first fight.
Yeah, no, I 100% agree with everything they're saying and or what they're saying through their ownership. And I definitely think there's live. I see a way to clear their price points for each guy more so than I do in some other fights. Like I was confused about Macdessey and Ignacio, more confused. Like I see potential, still a little confusing. This one makes a little more sense to me. If Gamrot puts a clinic on him or Holtzman just wins at 7K, we're looking better.
Right. All right.
So moving on, we got Jim Miller versus Joe Solecki. Jim Miller is Jim Miller, man. Always green. And if you're on a hot streak and you're one of those guys, you know, on fire, an up and comer, Jim Miller can absolutely ruin your party. He has done that many times throughout his Jim Miller, Matt. Do you know how many years he's been in the UFC, not fighting, but in the UFC?
No.
13 years crazy. In the UFC. Insane. What a life, man. Probably just think how many injuries that guy's had. It's crazy. 13 friggin' years in the UFC. But Jim Miller's a man. He can submit anybody. He's going to make my love list. He does every time he's on the slate. He's always like an underdog, and he wins like a third to a half of the time at the underdog. So it's like, and when he does, it's usually a submission. So it's like, okay, just throw him in there. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
He's a great punt. He doesn't always work out, but when he does, it's usually pretty well scoring. Right. Joe Solecki, he's a great grappler. The thing is, this is a weird, very weird matchup. Joe Solecki's a good grappler as well. I don't know how this is going to go. It's a near even finish chance. So like Vegas doesn't know how this is going to go. Like in terms of like, can Jim Miller submit him? Can Solecki submit him? Can Solecki knock him out? Jim Miller's tough to finish. This is interesting. It's stylistically, this is going to be a weird one. Even finish chance line, like even the finish chance line has an even line. So like I said, it's just weird. It's just weird pricing. Jim Miller's going to make love list. Solecki, I don't know what to do with.
It's one of those fights where you don't know what's going to happen till it actually starts.
Yeah, Solecki is great.
Anyway.
I like his talent level. He could just outwork Miller, and we saw Vince Pichel do that on Miller a little bit ago, and I think he could outwork him. and just put a good pace on him. And I would not be shocked if Solecki scored like a high scoring decision.
Right.
But I think Miller's tough to put away. He's tough to get out of there. So
Solecki, if you had to guess his ownership, where do you think it lies, Kevin? I'm very curious on what you think.
That's a great question. I'm wondering. So Jim Miller's a big name.
Right.
He's been around for a long time. Public should know who he is. I'm wondering if that makes people nervous or if people think he's washed up and old, which he is. He's a little washed. He's a little old. It's funny. I could see this going either way. You can make an argument for both sides.
Yeah.
I'm going to say the public is going to be. I was going to say high. And
Okay.
I'm like, and then I'm like thinking to myself, like, is the public really high on Joe Solecki? Like,
yeah.
Sure,
Well, I will say this: factor in the pricing, $9,100, and
I was trying to, and I was thinking about people around that price tag, like the twos, and
it's all
I'm
over
going to
the
say
place.
they're high on him.
They are high. Yep. He's the second highest owned on the slate. So second highest. So that's why I was confused when you're giving your breakdown. I was like, he doesn't really sound confident in Solecki, but the public looks to be.
Jim Miller's just a nightmare matchup.
Yeah.
Like Joe Solecki gets his paychecks off his ground game, and like Jim Miller has. Listen to this, Matt. Let's see.
You're looking at some stats while you're looking them up real quick. Jim Miller is 12.2% ownership, so it's the exact opposite. So again, huge leverage potential there. That's what I have to say.
It's crazy. That's a lot of leverage. Where is he? Yeah, Jim Miller, Matt, has 18 submissions in his MMA career. 18 submissions in his professional career out of 32 wins. So he has more submissions than he has combined decisions and knockouts. Like, I don't think Solecki's going to go out there and be like, yo, tap, bro. You know what I mean? Like, right. I don't think it's going to happen. So it's interesting to me. It's interesting.
Yeah, it's just, I think what they're doing is they're comparing every other fighter in that price range. And like you said, Gamrot, like $9,200 is slightly more. We don't know what to expect with him. 9,400 Castro, like you talked about, very volatile, right? So might as well take the cheaper of the volatile guys. I think is the way that they're going.
No, and I get that, but I also like. Here's the thing: last time Jim Miller fought before Pichel, Jim Miller fought Roosevelt Roberts. That was the exact same price tag. I think Roosevelt Roberts. I think Roosevelt Roberts was actually 9,200.
Right.
And Jim Miller was $7K, and Jim Miller submitted him in the I think like first round or something. So it was, I don't know, man, a little scary. But
again, this just goes back to your original point. GPP slate, and this is like the biggest leverage slate of all time.
Fumbling for words against like even Holtzman, Gamrot, not Dumont. I was pretty confident in that one. Macdessey, Ignacio, Jordan Castro. This one, I'm like, dude, like I've never felt like less important at my job.
Like, everybody's watching us and they're like, why am I watching this video if he doesn't know what he's talking about?
It's
guys,
just
I
like,
promise he's a good MMA analyst. I promise. Don't click off.
I promise, guys, I'm good. It's just like, it's such an awkward slate. Like there's so many arguments that can be made for so many different sides. Like I said, like Miller and Solecki, good grapplers. Like, how is this going to go? How is someone confidently going to say what's Solecki's ownership? I know you said he's number 2. What is it again?
30. Hold on. I need to scroll because Fancy Country changed it up. 36.9.
Okay, so it's not like absurd. It's not like 45.
No,
or something. Okay.
No, but I'll tell you what, Vittori's is absurd. So that's all I will say. Okay. Yeah,
I will say he's probably the only guy in this card who's a real, true stud.
Right. So
it makes sense to me. Like literally on a 15 fight slate, you think we'd have some studs. Like these are all just businessmen at this point. They're all just company men. Like even Kevin Holland. Kevin Holland's a stud. Kevin Holland's a stud. I can't take that away from him.
Yeah, I was about to say you talked him up previously, so you better stick to your words there.
I got it. Even after the Brunson fight, he's a stud.
Yeah.
But yeah, so let's move on. We got Mike Perry versus Daniel Rodriguez. Mike Perry, one of my favorite people in MMA. He's just such a funny personality. It's hard not to like him. He's just so dumb, so stupid. Like he's the dumbest person to talk, but he's so funny. Like O'Malley, is that what you said? Yep. No, this dude makes O'Malley look like a Harvard grad with like a side friggin' master's from Yale. Like this dude is just so friggin' stupid, but he's so funny because of it. But this is a love lister. I think it's pretty cut and dry. Not the best fight I've ever seen, but these boys like to throw some leather. Mike Perry has big power and has some wins over big names. He has a crap ton of losses. But again, it's most of them been lately, and they've been guys like Vicente Luque, Donald Cerrone, etc. So he can score pretty well at his price as well. 7,400. Mike Perry hits hard. We saw some good wrestling. I think it was the Mickey Gall fight where it was kind of the opposite thing. Like Mickey Gall's a grappler, Mike Perry's a striker, and Mickey Gall was actually like doing very well in striking, impressed me. Mike Perry wasn't loving it and took him down, showed that he had good wrestling. So that was good. And I think he can break that out when he needs to. Rodriguez is a good fighter who he had a pretty big year. He went 3-1 on the year, I believe. He's a good finisher. I think Perry makes a good dance partner. Like I said, they both like to throw leather.
Right.
And where I don't have a lot of confident ones for the love list, I'll throw this one in. Still has a decent finish chance, -125. It makes sense to me.
Yeah.
Daniel Rodriguez is a really good finisher, hits hard. I'm concerned. My only thing that concerns me is Perry's chin is pretty friggin' strong, Matt. Daniel Rodriguez hits hard. I don't know if Rodriguez has the striking and submission skills, or sorry, the volume. He has the skills to put Perry away, but I don't know if he has the volume to win in a decision. Like if he can't put Perry away, how's he going to score?
Right.
Yeah, I don't know how he's going to score, but I think he can put him away. He does have the skills to do so, and I think Perry could put him away too. So I like both these guys.
So I'll tell you one thing I noticed about this fight is like the price discrepancy between these two. $8,800 and $7,400 for Mike Perry. That's a $1,400 difference, but the line is showing Mike Perry a 41% chance to win, Kevin. So that's starting to get too close for comfort. I don't feel like this is an automatic win here for Rodriguez, at least just looking at the pricing and stuff. 25.7% ownership here for Rodriguez, and Perry 17.9% ownership. So
very much leverage on that.
Yeah,
I like that.
Mike Perry, definitely a good salary saver and good leverage potential there. So I like that.
Mike Perry's tough, man. He's like I said, he's a stupid, but he's dumb tough. You know what I mean?
Right.
Like
it's like Gronk. Oh.
Yeah, like Gronk, literally like Gronk. But it's just, I think he's going to come forward and he's just going to swing, and I'm hoping that he can put it together where he can put some, chain some wrestling in there. Maybe this is going to be his new shtick. He's a good athlete. It's not kind of a surprise to me at all that with his strength, he's a very physical guy. He's in pretty good shape. That he's starting to mix in some more wrestling. That's not a surprise. But I like to see that. Moving on, we have Nina Ansaroff / Nunes. She goes by both, I guess. This is Amanda Nunes' wife. I don't know if you knew that.
I did not.
So she's fighting Mackenzie Dern. It's crazy. Nina hasn't fought in like 2 years, so we haven't seen her in a bit. She has a bad finisher. She throws some solid volume, and at that price tag, it would be tough to fade her completely. I think this fight, Matt, can be marked as a double yellow.
Okay,
that's my gut reaction here. It's just for the pricing and Dern's finishability through her submissions and Nina's striking volume. I think there's potential. I like Dern, and I think she's a talented fighter and has a real shot as the underdog. Not much of an underdog, obviously, at 7,900. I think she has a real shot, though. Nina has beaten some big names, though, like Claudia Gadelha, Angela Hill. So I think she's going to be a tough test for her. Like I said, she has good striking volume. She could actually, like I said, Nina can score. She can clear 8,300 in a decision very easily. So it's not my favorite fight on this card, obviously, but I do see potential in this one.
Not to throw you off in the middle of our video, Kevin, but Nina, is she by any chance being replaced just because she's showing 0% ownership? That might be a fantasy cruncher thing. I don't know if you have the thing in front of you. If there's nothing to be said about that, then it's probably just fantasy cruncher lagging behind. And
sure. As of 4 minutes ago, it says Mackenzie Dern warns Nina Ansaroff will be at a huge disadvantage. So she's talking trash.
Well, then guess what? Then you guys are gonna have to sign up for Patreon to get that ownership projection for Nina there. 0% ownership is what they're showing. So I'm gonna expect it's gonna be a little bit higher than Mackenzie Dern, just given she is the favorite there. Dern at 15.9% ownership. So both of these girls should be relatively lower owned.
Okay, yeah, and as of 3 hours ago, it says the fight's still on.
Okay, and it's probably just fantasy cruncher. It happens from time to time.
Okay, cool. So yeah, I think that's fine. But yeah, interesting fight there. I definitely see potential. Moving on, we have Sam Alvey versus Julian Marquez. This is interesting. So I've changed my tune on this fight a couple times, Matt. I actually did a whole write-up on this one. I changed it. It's just it's interesting.
The ownership's very interesting too. So,
really?
Yeah.
So that's gonna be very curious to hear that, because I think Marquez has more potential with his finish rate, and Sam Alvey's on a pretty big losing streak. That being said, Alvey does have power. He's a true veteran, and Julian looked pretty bad against Maki Pitolo. That fight was, I believe, February 13th. and that was when Maki Patola was putting it on him, and Julian came back and got a late submission, but he was definitely losing the fight. So this is interesting. He's a good finisher. Obviously, like I said, he was losing the fight, got the finish. But Sam Alvey's a good vet and has big power. I think this fight has real potential. It's got a -165 finish chance. That makes sense to me. This, don't shoot me if it doesn't go as planned, but I think they need to make my love list just for that volatility factor. Like I said, there's actually, for as many fights as there is on this card, Matt, there really isn't a lot that have high finish chances. There really is not a lot. So it's actually crazy. I'm looking at it now. There really is not that many. So I think this is one you got to include in your love list for sure.
This is going to be my favorite fight to target on the slate, given the ownership. It looks very, very low. And I think for the reasons you just said, nobody really knows what's going to happen here. The price discrepancy, too. Like, who's going to pay up $9,000 for a -194 favorite? That's what it's showing here on Fantasy Crunch. I don't know if it's moved that much. But still, that seems very close to more of a coin toss. If they're giving Alvey a 39% chance to win this thing, 18.3% ownership on Marquez, and then on Alvey, it's 8.9 for the finish chance that high. Kevin, if that's actually true, sign me up. That's all I'll say.
Yeah, that's crazy.
For both sides.
Yeah, I don't understand that. I definitely would take that. I mean, I get Alvey is the least sexy pick in MMA. Like when he comes up, I'm like,
sure. Yeah, well, that explains his ownership then.
Yeah, he's just not like, yeah, he's got power. He absolutely can knock people out. Gets a ton of decisions though. Ends in a ton of decisions. He's hard to finish. Most of his fights end in decisions. But I think this one's a good dance partner. He can still end in. He still has big power. He still knocks people out.
I see that. It's extremely hit or miss looking at his game logs.
Yeah, he is. It's extremely hit or miss as of late. He's on like a 5. He lost 4 in a row and then had a draw. So he definitely could use some help
on the downside right now. Yeah,
100%. So. But yeah, we'll see. We'll see how that one goes. I like the ownership, so big leverage there.
All right, last two. Here we go.
Moving on. Yep, Kyle Dox's fight was off, so we'll move on to Arnold Allen versus Sadiq Youssef. Sadiq Youssef has big power, just like he's one of the fellow Nigerian fighters like Francis Ngannou, Kamaru Usman, who just packs that big power. I think he can put the lights out on Allen for sure. That being said, if he doesn't, I do not expect him to make optimal, so tread a little lightly there. He doesn't land a ton, has a pretty non-existent ground game, so I think he will need the knockout. I do think Allen is going to have a real advantage on the ground, so I think this is a tough matchup for him. I think stylistically, I'm to be honest, Matt, I'm kind of all over Allen. Youssef is impressive. He showed me he's tough. He's good. Arnold Allen is 6-0 in the UFC and is a good grappler and a nightmare matchup right now. At 7,700, I'm going to take a crap ton of Allen. He's going to be in my love list.
All right. Well, then you'll love to hear the ownership, Kevin, because the ownership on Allen's very low. 15% ownership on Youssef. It's 26.7. So that 5th highest on the slate there. And I agree with you. I think the lines are very, very close. Doesn't really make sense when it comes to the ownership there. Very low on Allen.
It's close. I mean, it's the 10th and the 11th ranked fighters in the UFC. One's 4-0 in the UFC in Youssef. The other's 6-0 in the UFC. Like, it's a coin flip. You can't tell me it's not a coin flip. Youssef is going to impose his will on his feet. And he's going to put Arnold in danger, or Arnold's going to take him down. He's going to impose his will on the ground.
Well, 46% chance to win for Allen, so it's literally a toss-up. Yeah,
it's a literal toss-up, and one is 7,700. I don't really understand like why you wouldn't take him.
Right.
Like more so. It's just like it's pretty simple. So.
And I want to talk about your point here, going back to the very first fight. It was Sasha, right? Sasha is one of the cheapest on the. I think it is the cheapest on the card. $6,700. It looks like that's where people are going in terms of lineup construction. Just going to throw that really cheap person in there. The pay up for the next highest, or well, the highest owned guy on the slate here, which you're about to talk about. I think that's the general way people are going. So I think it's more about lineup construction, Kevin. We always talk about this. So if you guys are trying to get different, don't pay all the way down and then pay all the way up. It looks like a mid-range build will definitely set you apart. So that being said, Kevin, you want to talk about the main event?
No, I think it's very well put, Matt. Mid-range builds kill. Yeah. Absolutely kill.
They did last slate. That's for sure.
It happens so many times. So many people in mid-range, and especially where like it's people like, and when you're building a lineup, you look at an 8,500 and a 7,700. You look at a 8,700 versus a 7,500. And if you can fit the 8,700 in, it's like, yeah, I'm going to take that guy. bro, those are still coin flips a lot of the time.
Right.
A lot of the time.
And
So,
high
like,
upside coin flips too.
100%. Like, do you know how many times I've lost? Perfect example. Last week, I took Combo Worthy over Malarkey because I had extra salary in one, and I was like, I like Malarkey. I already had a decent amount of Malarkey, and I was like, I'm going to take Worthy, and it's got knocked down 46 seconds. It's most of those fights in mid range are just close to 50-50s anyway.
I might just exclude every 9K above person and just make mid range builds for the next for this.
Or take one that's like Sean O'Malley. I felt confident last week. Like, I was like, I don't think Almeida has enough juice for him. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like, you can't take him in a fight like friggin' Gamrot versus Holtzman. That's not where you put 9,200 friggin' bucks.
Right.
You do it when it's someone like, you know, Cody Garbrandt versus like someone, you know, you've seen enough of. You've seen their skill level. You know that this person, to be able to beat them, is going to have to be an elite fighter, not two guys who, like, I think, like, who are kind of new, and Vegas is like, I think this guy's pretty good, but I think this guy's really good. Like, no,
according to our statistics, he's still okay. Yeah, we'll
yeah, like, that's not what we're doing.
give him a favor.
At actual studs. If you're dropping your stud money on one of the first 3 fights, you're probably going to be in trouble. That's rule of thumb. And then unless obviously there's certain circumstance where it works. But anyway, moving on to the main event, Marvin Vettori versus Kevin Holland. Love Vettori, I really do. But you cannot convince me that Kevin Holland doesn't have at least a chance in this fight. And he is actually the cheapest one on this card, man, at 6,600.
Okay.
Which is insane. You can't tell me that dude doesn't have a friggin' chance, man. I get that he just lost to Brunson. It was pretty tough loss, but he made it all 5 rounds against a very tough opponent. Derek Brunson also just pissed through Edmund Shabazian. So he's pretty good. Kevin Holland was on a 5-win streak before that, beating friggin' Jacare and stuff. You know what I mean? Like, it's crazy. Like, I don't think Vettori is the wrestler that Brunson is either. I think Vettori is a very good grappler. And that's going to be a huge problem for Holland because that's his weakest area, and that's going to be an issue. And I do like that for Vettori, but I think he's going to have a harder time getting it to the ground than Brunson. So, but that being said, I do like Vettori in this fight too. It's a good matchup for him stylistically. Like I said, he's a very good grappler. Yeah. Holland has shown some woes there, but 9.6K in this slate is absolutely terrifying. But got to include him in your player pool, obviously. But I don't know how much you want of him, Matt. I'm sure you're going to convince me with that ownership.
Yeah, I mean, he's the highest owned. The only thing that I'm hesitant on is how high it actually is here. 55% ownership, Kevin. If you kind of compare this to the McGregor card that we had, McGregor was 62% chance, or 62% ownership. So this is competing with that. So we again, flashbacks to your builds, Kevin. We know how that went. So if you guys really want to get different, you know, I'm not saying full fade this guy, but definitely go underweight because the public is 55% on him. Again, if he loses, you're getting rid of 55% of the field. If something bad, you know, if something happens where he gets like a first round finish, he might not be in the optimal build. So again, another point, Kevin. Our big GPP winner we talked about at the beginning of the video, $48,000. Guess how he won that GPP? He faded the main event. So just saying, and there's 14 fights on this card.
This is definitely a super favorable main event. I mean, I think Vettori is absolutely going to be a. I mean, gun to my head, who's going to be the highest score on the slate? You guys,
sure,
I mean, it's stupid to say not, but it's still. That being said, I mean. 15 fights late, you don't know what's going to happen. And Holland has a chance. Holland can win.
And if Holland wins, again, you're eliminating 55% of the field. And Holland himself, very high potential here, 22.6% ownership, which is in that GPP range, a little bit low the mid range. Also, Kevin, in cash, I just want to throw this out there, just because I want to hear your take, and it's kind of more of a rhetorical question. Is this fight stackable for cash?
I do think it's stackable. It has a pretty high finish chance at -170. I think it's stackable.
I think it's stackable because of the price tags too. $6,600 for Holland.
Yeah, watching their last fights, I think it's stackable. I do.
All right. I think that's it. So let's hear your take here on your core fights, GPP, and punt plays, Kevin. Bring it all together.
So, I actually had Vettori. That's all I had. Ownership, I knew it was going to be high. I said that ownership and ceiling. But that is a lofty price tag. GPP plays, Jung versus Knight. These guys have a combined 20 finishes of their 22 wins. Need I say more? Jack Shore, great pricing and an undefeated fighter.
Surely is.
I love Jack Shore. I think he might be the future. Perry Rodriguez has huge high octane potential, solid pricing there, pretty low ownership, as you said too. Marquez, not my favorite pay up option, but good finisher against a guy who hasn't won in 6 fights in Sam Alvey. So That's interesting, but I think that fight's super live, and I know you love the ownership there too. Arnold Allen, great pricing, and it's a tough matchup for Sadiq. I don't know. I'm really buying the Arnold Allen, narrative in this one. Punts, Blanchfield has a real chance to win at super punt pricing at 6,900. I think that's a toss-up. That's a 50-50 fight against Dumont, in my opinion. Jim Miller, always a good punt, wins like half the time there. Alvey, as we talked about, cheap vet. Marquez looked like crap last fight. Holland, I think he has a real chance in a 5-rounder.
Yep, and again, mentioning core plays, you can mention Holland and Vettori. Since you mentioned them as a stack, you can stack them in cash, so you can technically say they're both core. If you decide to go that route, again, on a 15-fight slate, might as well just take those two, knowing that they should both score high when it goes 5 rounds, and cut your losses there in that one fight. All right, guys, that will end our video. Hopefully everybody did enjoy this breakdown. If you did, please do hit that subscription button, notification bell, and of course, smash that like button for all of our future MMA content. With all that being said, have a great rest of your day, and let's cash.